My name is Angela, and I am 68 years old. Trust and betrayal come from the most unexpected places. I never thought my only son, Thomas, would abandon me at a nursing home on my birthday after everything I sacrificed for him. The pain cut deeper than any knife, but life has a funny way of balancing the scales. Just 1 week later, I won the lottery, and everything changed. If you are watching this, let me know where you are from in the comments. Please like and subscribe to hear how sometimes fate delivers justice in the most unexpected ways. I was not always alone. Once upon a time, I had a beautiful family with my husband Frank and our son Thomas. Frank was the love of my life. We met during college and married young. He worked as an engineer while I stayed home to raise Thomas. Life was good until that rainy April evening when the police knocked on my door. Frank had been in a fatal car accident. Just like that, at 39 years old, I became a widow with a 10-year-old son to raise alone. The grief was overwhelming, but I had no time to fall apart. Thomas needed me, and I promised myself I would give him everything, even if it meant sacrificing my own happiness. I returned to school, earned my nursing degree, and worked 2 jobs, often pulling double shifts at the hospital and then waitressing on weekends. There were nights I came home so exhausted I could barely climb the stairs to my bedroom, but seeing Thomas grow into a smart, kind young man made it all worthwhile. We were close, Thomas and I. Every Sunday was our special day together. We would make pancakes in the morning, then spend the afternoon doing whatever Thomas wanted, whether it was fishing at the local pond or building model airplanes. As a teenager, he would still sit in the kitchen and tell me about his day while I cooked dinner. I never remarried. There were opportunities, but I always thought, why complicate our lives? Thomas was my priority, and I wanted every extra dollar to go toward his college fund. The proudest day of my life was when Thomas graduated high school as valedictorian and received a partial scholarship to State University. I had saved enough to cover the rest of his tuition. He hugged me after the ceremony and said, "Mom, everything I am is because of you." College changed Thomas. He became more independent, which was natural, but our Sunday traditions faded away. His calls became less frequent and his visits home shorter. I told myself this was normal. He was building his own life. After graduation, he landed a job at a marketing firm in the city about 2 hours away. I was disappointed he would not be closer, but I supported his decision. Then Thomas met Amanda. She was beautiful, ambitious, and came from a wealthy family. From our first meeting, I sensed she viewed me as somehow beneath her. She would smile politely, but spoke to me like I was a child. Still, Thomas seemed happy, so I kept my concerns to myself. They married after dating for just 8 months. I put on a brave face at their wedding, even when I overheard Amanda telling her friends that the ceremony would have been more elegant if Thomas had let her plan it without my input. After the wedding, things changed dramatically. Thomas called even less, and when he did, Amanda was always mysteriously just stepping out or taking a nap. When they visited, which became rare, Amanda would comment on my home, suggesting updates I might consider to make it more modern. These visits often ended with Thomas and Amanda arguing in whispered tones in the driveway before driving away. My health began to decline in my early 60s. Nothing major at first, just the usual complaints of aging. Arthritis in my knees made climbing stairs difficult. My blood pressure required medication. My vision was not what it used to be. I never complained to Thomas about these issues. He had his own life, his own concerns. Besides, I had always been independent. My financial situation was stable, if modest. The house was paid off thanks to Frank's life insurance. I had my nursing pension and a small savings account. Nothing extravagant, but enough to live comfortably. I also had my treasures items of sentimental rather than monetary value. Frank's wedding ring, which I kept in my jewelry box, the antique clock, that had belonged to my grandmother. The collection of handmade Christmas ornaments Thomas had created throughout his childhood. As the years passed, the distance between Thomas and me grew. I sent birthday gifts and holiday cards. Sometimes he acknowledged them, sometimes not. I told myself he was busy building his career, starting a family. But there was always a small voice in the back of my mind, wondering if Amanda was the one keeping him away. I pushed that thought aside, not wanting to be the bitter mother-in-law from the television movies. Then came what would be my last phone call with Thomas before everything changed. It was a month before my 68th birthday. He called on a Sunday afternoon, which was unusual enough to make me immediately concerned. "Mom," he said, his voice unusually bright. "I have been thinking. Your birthday is coming up, and I want to do something special this year." My heart swelled. After years of missed birthdays or belated cards, this felt like a breakthrough. Maybe he had finally realized what he had been missing. "That would be wonderful, Thomas," I replied, trying to keep the emotion from my voice. "Great. Amanda and I will come by on your birthday. We have a surprise planned." After we hung up, I spent the next few weeks in a state of excited anticipation. I cleaned the house from top to bottom, bought new sheets for the guest bedroom, in case they wanted to stay overnight, and even practiced making Thomas's favorite lemon meringue pie. For the first time in years, I felt hopeful about our relationship. I had no idea what was really coming. My birthday dawned bright and clear. I woke up early, too excited to sleep. I put on my favorite blue dress, the one Frank always said brought out the color of my eyes, and a touch of lipstick. I wanted to look my best for whatever surprise Thomas had planned. Perhaps lunch at a nice restaurant, or maybe even a weekend trip somewhere. The doorbell rang at exactly 11 o'clock. I took a deep breath, checked my appearance one last time in the hallway mirror, and opened the door with a smile. There stood Thomas, looking handsome in a button-down shirt and slacks. But something was off. His smile did not quite reach his eyes, and there was a tension in his shoulders I recognized from when he was a child and had something to hide. "Happy birthday, Mom," he said, giving me a quick hug. "You look nice." "Thank you, honey. Where is Amanda?" I asked, noticing his wife was not with him. "She is not feeling well. Morning sickness. Did not I tell you we are expecting?" The news hit me like a thunderbolt. My first grandchild, and he had not even told me they were trying to have a baby. I swallowed my hurt and forced enthusiasm into my voice. "That is wonderful news. When is she due? How is she feeling? Why did not you tell me sooner?" Thomas shrugged, glancing at his watch. "We have been busy. Listen, Mom, we need to get going if we are going to make it on time." "On time for what? What is the surprise?" I asked, grabbing my purse from the hall table. Thomas reached into his jacket and pulled out a manila envelope. "We need to take care of some paperwork first. It is for your new place." My heart leapt. A new place? Was he moving me closer to them, perhaps into a nice condo or retirement community where I could be near my future grandchild? "What new place?" I asked. "You will see. Just need you to sign these forms first. It is all taken care of, but they need your signature." He pulled out several documents and placed them on the coffee table, flipping to pages marked with sticky tabs. "Sign here, here, and initial here." I hesitated, reaching for my reading glasses. "Should not I read these first?" Thomas checked his watch again. "Mom, we do not have time. They are expecting us by noon, and it is a 45-minute drive. Do you trust me or not?" Put that way, how could I refuse? Of course I trusted my son. I signed where he indicated not bothering to read the fine print. After all, Thomas would never do anything to hurt me. He was my son, my only child, the person I had sacrificed everything for. As we got into his car, a sleek new model I had never seen before, I felt a flutter of excitement mixed with apprehension. "So, where are we going?" "It is a surprise," Thomas replied, not meeting my eyes as he started the engine. "Just relax." The drive took us out of my familiar neighborhood and into parts of the city I rarely visited. The buildings became more modern, the traffic heavier. Finally, we turned onto a tree-lined street and approached a large institutional-looking building set back from the road. A discreet sign read, "Sunshine Valley Senior Living." My stomach dropped. "Thomas, what is this place?" He parked the car and turned to me with an expression I could not quite read. "This is your new home, Mom. Sunshine Valley is one of the best senior living facilities in the state. They have round-the-clock medical care activities, everything you need." I stared at him, certain this was some kind of joke. "But I do not need round-the-clock care. I am perfectly fine in my own home." Thomas sighed as if I were being difficult. "Mom, you are getting older. Your health is not what it used to be. Amanda and I are having a baby now. We cannot be worrying about you falling down those stairs or forgetting to take your medication." "I have never forgotten my medication," I protested, my voice rising. "And I am careful on the stairs. Thomas, I do not want to live in a nursing home." "It is not a nursing home," he corrected me, his tone condescending. "It is a senior living community, and it is already done. The papers you signed?" "That was the admission paperwork and power of attorney. I have already arranged for the sale of your house. Your things will be packed up, and whatever you need will be brought here." I felt like I could not breathe. The world seemed to spin around me. "You sold my house without telling me, Thomas. How could you?" His face hardened. "It was for your own good. The house was too much for you to maintain anyway. The money from the sale will pay for your care here." "But all my memories are in that house," I whispered, tears filling my eyes. "Everything Frank and I built together, all of our family history." "It is just stuff, Mom. You cannot take it with you anyway." Before I could respond, a woman in a blue uniform approached the car with a wheelchair. Thomas got out and spoke to her briefly, then opened my door. "This is Marla. She will get you settled in. I have to go now. Amanda is waiting, and we have a doctor's appointment this afternoon." I clutched at his arm as he helped me out of the car. "Thomas, please, do not leave me here. Not on my birthday. We can talk about this. Make a plan together." For a moment, I thought I saw a flicker of doubt in his eyes, but then he looked away. "It is already done, Mom. This is what is best for everyone." And with that, he got back into his car and drove away, leaving me standing there on my 68th birthday, abandoned at a nursing home by my only child. The first hours at Sunshine Valley passed in a blur of disbelief and denial. Surely this was a mistake. Any minute now, Thomas would return, apologizing profusely, explaining it had all been a terrible misunderstanding. I sat rigidly in a chair by the window of my new room, a sterile space half the size of my bedroom at home, watching the parking lot for his car to return. It did not. A knock at the door interrupted my vigil. A woman in her 40s with a kind face and a clipboard introduced herself as Diane, the facility social worker. "Mrs. Thompson, I wanted to check in and see how you are settling in." "I am not," I replied bluntly. "There has been a mistake. I did not agree to come here. My son tricked me." Diane's expression shifted to one I would come to recognize well, a mixture of pity and professional detachment. "I understand this transition can be difficult, but I have reviewed your paperwork and everything appears to be in order. You signed the voluntary admission forms." "I did not know what I was signing," I protested. "He told me it was something else entirely." She nodded sympathetically. "That happens sometimes, unfortunately, but legally your signature is binding. Your son has also been granted financial power of attorney, which means he has the legal right to make decisions about your assets. The full implications hit me then. My house. He said he sold my house. Yes, according to our records, the sale of your property is being finalized this week. The proceeds will be used to cover your stay here at Sunshine Valley. I felt physically ill. Can he do that? Just sell my home without my true consent? Diane's professional veneer cracked slightly. With the power of attorney you signed, yes. I am sorry, Mrs. Thompson. Perhaps after you have settled in, we can discuss your options with our legal consultant. But for now, let me show you around and introduce you to some of our other residents. The tour did nothing to lift my spirits. The dining hall with its institutional food served on plastic trays. The recreation room where elderly residents stared blankly at a blaring television. The garden, a small patio with a few potted plants. This was to be my life now. Back in my room, I tried calling Thomas, but the call went straight to voicemail. I left a message trying to keep my voice steady, asking him to please call me back to reconsider, to at least bring me some of my personal belongings. Then I sat on the narrow bed and allowed myself to cry for the first time. 3 days later, Thomas finally called back. I grabbed the phone eagerly. Thomas, thank goodness. Please, you have to reconsider this. I do not belong here. Mom? His voice was firm, almost cold. The house sale closed yesterday. It is done. But my things, I pleaded. My photos, Frank's ring, all our family memories. We are boxing everything up. I will have some of your clothes and personal items delivered next week. What about the rest? I asked, dreading the answer. A pause. Amanda and I are keeping some things for the nursery. The rest will have to be sold or donated. There is not enough space in our apartment to store it all, and your room there is small. But Thomas, those things are my life. They are not just possessions, they are memories. They are just things, Mom. You need to let go of the past. This is your life now, and the sooner you accept it, the happier you will be. After he hung up, I sat in stunned silence. This could not be the same boy who had once made me Mother's Day cards, proclaiming me the best mom in the universe. The same young man who had thanked me with tears in his eyes when I presented him with the keys to his first car, a used Honda I had saved 3 years to afford. What had happened to my son? A week later, 2 small boxes arrived, containing a few changes of clothes, some toiletries, and a single framed photo of Thomas's high school graduation. No family albums. No keepsakes. None of the jewelry Frank had given me over the years. None of Thomas's childhood art or school projects that I had so carefully preserved. It was while staring at those pitiful boxes that I met Martha. She knocked softly before entering, a tall woman with silver hair and alert blue eyes, perhaps a few years older than me. New arrival, huh? I saw them bring in your boxes. Not much to show for a lifetime, is it? I found myself laughing despite my misery. No, it certainly is not. Martha sat down in the room's single chair without invitation. Let me guess. Children decided you were too much trouble, shipped you off, and sold the family home. How did you know? She shrugged. Same story, different faces. My daughter and son-in-law decided my 3-bedroom house would make a perfect family home for them. Next thing I knew, I was signing papers for my protection and being driven here. That was 2 years ago. 2 years? I echoed, horrified at the thought of spending that long in this place. It gets easier, Martha assured me. Not better, mind you, just easier. You make friends. Find ways to pass the time. Speaking of which, a few of us play cards in the sunroom on Thursday afternoons. You should join us. I almost declined, then realized I had nothing better to do. I might take you up on that. Over the next few weeks, I learned more about my new reality. Thomas had purchased the most basic care package the facility offered, despite the fact that my house had sold for nearly $400,000. My room was in the standard care wing rather than the much nicer, independent living apartments that cost more. I was permitted 3 meals a day in the dining hall, basic medical care, and participation in facility activities. Anything extra from having a phone in my room to joining outside excursions required additional fees. I tried repeatedly to contact Thomas, leaving messages that grew increasingly desperate, then angry, and finally resigned. He rarely called back, and when he did, the conversations were brief and unsatisfying. Yes, he was busy. Yes, Amanda was doing well. No, they could not visit anytime soon due to work commitments and preparing for the baby. It was during this time that I discovered another disturbing fact. Martha introduced me to her friend Judy, a retired attorney who had ended up at Sunshine Valley after a stroke left her with partial paralysis. "Your son pulled a fast one on you," Judy declared after hearing my story. "That business with signing paperwork without reading it, classic elder financial abuse." Abuse? I repeated the word, feeling foreign on my tongue when applied to Thomas. Absolutely. Unfortunately, it happens all the time. Children or caregivers manipulating elderly parents into signing away their assets, their homes, their independence. "Is there anything I can do?" Judy frowned. "Possibly. It depends on what exactly you signed and your mental competency at the time. Do you have copies of the documents?" I did not, of course. Thomas had kept everything. "We could request them," Judy suggested. "I still have my law license, though I do not practice anymore. I could help you pro bono. Consider it my way of fighting boredom in this place." For the first time since arriving at Sunshine Valley, I felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps this situation was not permanent after all. Despite the devastating circumstances that brought me to Sunshine Valley, I refused to surrender to despair. Each morning, I woke up and reminded myself that I had survived becoming a widow at 39. I had raised a son alone and built a nursing career from scratch. I had overcome challenges before, and I would overcome this too. With Judy's guidance, I began exploring my legal options. The news was not encouraging. The power of attorney I had signed gave Thomas broad authority over my finances and property. Challenging it would require proving I had been deliberately misled or was not mentally competent when signing both difficult claims to substantiate. "The house sale is unfortunately a done deal," Judy explained. "But we might be able to contest how the proceeds are being used and possibly revoke the power of attorney going forward." "How much would something like that cost?" I asked, knowing I had no access to the money from my house sale. "Legal fees would be substantial," Judy admitted, "unless we could find an elder law attorney willing to take the case on contingency." While we researched legal avenues, I forced myself to adapt to life at Sunshine Valley. I joined Martha's Thursday card group, which introduced me to several other women in similar situations. There was Doris, whose children had moved her to the facility after her husband died, claiming she could not live alone. Patricia, whose son had convinced her to sell her farm, with promises of building her a cottage on his property, promises that never materialized. And Eleanor, whose daughter visited faithfully every Sunday, but had still pressured her mother to sell her home before property values dropped. We formed an unofficial support group, sharing our stories and offering each other the understanding that only those who had experienced similar betrayals could provide. Sometimes we laughed about our situations, finding humor in the absurdity. Sometimes we cried together. Always we reminded each other of our worth beyond our usefulness to our children. One rainy afternoon, about a month after my arrival, I was returning from the dining hall when I spotted a familiar figure at the reception desk. Amanda Thomas's wife, elegant in designer clothes that probably cost more than my monthly care fee, was speaking to the administrator. I approached cautiously, my heart pounding. "Amanda?" She turned, surprise flashing across her face before she composed herself. "Angela, I did not expect to run into you." This is where I live now, I replied, unable to keep the bitterness from my voice. Thanks to you and Thomas. Amanda glanced around as if concerned someone might overhear. We did what was best for everyone. Thomas worries about you living alone. With the baby coming, we need to focus on our family. I am family too, I reminded her. Or I was. Of course you are, she said smoothly. That is why we made sure you have the best care possible. I gestured around at the institutional setting. This is hardly the best care possible. This is the bare minimum. Amanda's expression hardened. I need to go. I was just dropping off some insurance paperwork. Is Thomas not even willing to come himself? I asked. He is very busy, she replied, already turning away. The company is sending him to conferences almost every month now. He is on track for a promotion. Before I could respond, she was walking briskly toward the exit, leaving me standing there with all my unasked questions. The encounter with Amanda left me seething. Clearly, they had no intention of reconsidering my living situation. If anything was going to change, I would need to take action myself. But with no access to my finances and limited resources, what could I do? It was Martha who suggested an unexpected path forward. Join our lottery pool, she proposed during our next card game. Lottery pool. Several of us chip in $5 each week to buy tickets, Doris explained. We have been doing it for months, mostly just for fun, something to look forward to. I have never played the lottery, I admitted. It always seemed like a waste of money. Probably is, Martha agreed with a laugh. But what else do we have to lose at this point? Besides, we won $20 last month. After some consideration, I decided to join. I still had a small amount of cash in my wallet from before my arrival at Sunshine Valley. $5 a week seemed a small price to pay for the camaraderie and shared hope the lottery pool provided. Each Wednesday, we would gather in the sunroom to watch the drawing on television, clutching our shared tickets and imagining the possibilities if we won. It became a ritual, a small, bright spot in the monotony of facility life. When my turn came to select the numbers, I chose dates significant to my life. Thomas's birthday, my wedding anniversary with Frank, the day Frank died, my own birthday, and the day I graduated nursing school. The final number I selected was 29, the age I was when Thomas was born, the day my life changed forever. Personal numbers? Martha nodded approvingly. Those are lucky, they say. I do not believe in luck anymore, I replied. But I do believe in making the best of what life gives you. Little did I know how prophetic those words would prove to be. Exactly 1 week after my birthday, our lottery group gathered in the sunroom for the weekly drawing. It had become a social event with residents who did not even participate in the pool joining us just for the companionship. I sat between Martha and Doris, barely paying attention as the announcer began reading the numbers. First number tonight is 23, the television announcer said cheerfully. Thomas's birthday. I felt a pang of sadness, but pushed it aside. Next up, we have 14. My wedding anniversary date with Frank, the 14th of February. Our third number tonight is 8. The day Frank died, the 8th of April. A strange feeling began to wash over me. Coincidence, surely. The announcer continued. Fourth number is 6. My birthday, the 6th of June. Martha grabbed my arm. Angela, those are your numbers? Just a coincidence, I whispered, my heart beginning to race. Fifth number is 20. The day I graduated nursing school, May 20th. The room had gone completely silent. Everyone was staring at me now. And our final number tonight is 29. For a moment, I could not breathe. The world seemed to stop spinning. Those were my numbers, all 6 of them, exactly as I had chosen them. Martha was the first to break the silence with a whoop of joy. You did it? You hit the jackpot. We all did. I corrected her automatically. It is a group ticket. No, Doris interjected. Not this week. Remember, we each bought individual tickets because the jackpot was so big. That was your personal ticket with your numbers. The realization hit me then. The jackpot had been announced earlier as $37 million, and I had just won it. All of it. The next few days passed in a whirlwind of activity. Judy helped me contact the Lottery Commission and arrange for verification of my ticket. Martha kept my win a secret from the facility staff at my request, though our small group of friends celebrated privately in my room with contraband cookies from Doris's daughter. I had decisions to make. The Lottery Commission explained I could take a lump sum payment, now approximately $21 million after taxes, or receive annual payments over 30 years. Given my age and situation, the choice was clear. Take the lump sum, Judy advised. And then we need to protect it. Set up a trust. Get proper financial advice. This changes everything, Angela. Indeed it did. For the first time since Thomas had left me at Sunshine Valley, I felt a sense of power returning. I was no longer helpless, no longer dependent on my son's grudging support. I could make my own decisions, chart my own course. Judy introduced me to her former law partner, now a successful financial advisor who agreed to help me manage my windfall. Together we developed a plan: first, secure the money in proper accounts. Second, find appropriate housing. Third, revoke Thomas's power of attorney and change my will. Fourth, decide what, if anything, to tell my son about my changed circumstances. That decision was temporarily taken out of my hands when Thomas called one evening nearly 2 weeks after my win. I had been expecting his call eventually, as the monthly statement from Sunshine Valley would have shown my room was paid in full. "Mom, is everything all right? The facility said your bill has been paid." "Yes, everything is fine," I replied, keeping my voice neutral. "I came into some money." "What? How?" His tone was incredulous. "A small inheritance from your father's cousin," I lied smoothly. "Nothing substantial, but enough to cover my care for a few months." "Dad's cousin, I did not know he had any family left." "There are many things you do not know, Thomas," I replied, unable to keep a hint of bitterness from my voice. "Look, Mom, I actually called about something else. We need some paperwork for the insurance company, Dad's old life insurance policy. Do you know where it might be among your things?" Of course, he was not calling to check on me. He needed something. "I would not know. You took all my papers, remember? Along with everything else from my home." "Not everything," he protested. "We sent you your clothes and some personal items." 2 boxes, Thomas. 2 small boxes from an entire lifetime. An uncomfortable silence followed. Then, "Amanda said she saw you at Sunshine Valley a few weeks ago. She said you seemed angry." "Wouldn't you be if someone tricked you into signing away your home and independence?" Another pause. "It was for your own good, Mom. You were getting older, living alone in that big house. What if something happened to you? Then I would have called my son, whom I thought cared about me. Clearly, I was mistaken." Thomas sighed heavily. "Look, we are both tired. Let's talk about this another time. I will look for that insurance paperwork in the boxes we have here." After he hung up, I sat holding the phone, a mixture of emotions washing over me. Anger, certainly. Hurt still fresh despite the weeks that had passed. But also, unexpectedly, a sense of freedom. Thomas no longer held power over me. I had choices now, options that had seemed impossible just weeks before. The next day, I received another shock. Martha returned from an outing with her daughter, bearing news that left me reeling. "Your daughter-in-law is something else," she announced, settling into the chair in my room. "Guess what my Lena saw yesterday at the shopping mall? Your son's wife wearing what appeared to be quite an expensive diamond bracelet. When Lena commented on it, the woman bragged that it was a family heirloom from her mother-in-law." My breath caught. A diamond tennis bracelet with small sapphires at the clasp. Martha nodded grimly. That sounds right from what Lena described. My bracelet, the one Frank had given me on our 20th anniversary. The one I had planned to give Thomas for his future wife on their wedding day, but had held back not feeling Amanda would appreciate its sentimental value. She is wearing my jewelry, I whispered. They did not just take my home. They took everything. It was the final straw. Any lingering doubt about my next actions vanished in that moment. That evening, I called my new financial advisor and set my plan in motion. The day I moved out of Sunshine Valley was one of quiet triumph. I had arranged everything meticulously with Judy's help. First, I changed my cell phone number and created a new email address, effectively cutting off Thomas's primary means of contacting me. Then I found a beautiful 3-bedroom house in a gated community just 20 minutes from Sunshine Valley, close enough to visit my friends but far removed from my previous neighborhood where Thomas might look for me. Before leaving, I made a significant donation to Sunshine Valley, specifically for upgrading the standard care wing where I had lived. New mattresses, better televisions, improved meal options. It was my parting gift to those who would remain behind those without the miraculous second chance I had received. You do not have to do this, Martha said as she helped me pack my few belongings. I want to, I insisted. This place brought me low, but it also gave me you and Judy and the others. That friendship was invaluable. Martha hugged me fiercely. We will miss you. Promise you will visit. Every Thursday for cards, I vowed. Wild horses could not keep me away. My new home was everything I could have wanted. Spacious, but not overwhelming single story to accommodate my arthritis with a lovely garden and a sunroom perfect for my newly acquired orchid collection. I furnished it carefully, not with expensive showpieces, but with comfortable quality items that reflected my taste and needs. With Judy's legal connections, I hired the best attorney in the state, specializing in elder law and financial abuse. He helped me officially revoke Thomas's power of attorney and draft a new will, one that specifically excluded my son from inheriting anything beyond a small bequest I would detail in a letter to be delivered after my death. Instead, my will now directed the bulk of my estate to be divided between a scholarship fund in Frank's name at the local community college and a newly established foundation to provide legal assistance to elderly victims of financial exploitation. It was my way of turning pain into purpose, betrayal into blessing. The attorney also helped me file the paperwork to legally change my name back to my maiden name, Anderson. Not because I did not cherish being Frank's wife, but because it would make it more difficult for Thomas to locate me should he eventually discover my lottery win and come looking. With my financial security assured, I turned my attention to recovering what I could of my former life. I hired a discreet private investigator to track down items from my home that Thomas had sold. Some were beyond recovery, but others I was able to purchase back often at prices far exceeding their market value, but worth every penny for their sentimental significance. I found my grandmother's clock at an antique store 2 counties over. I recovered a set of Frank's vintage car models from an online collector. Most precious of all, I located Frank's wedding ring at a pawn shop in the city, recognizing it instantly by the inscription inside, "Forever yours, Angela." As I settled into my new life, reports from the private investigator revealed interesting details about Thomas and Amanda's situation. Despite the substantial sum they must have received from selling my house, they appeared to be struggling financially. Thomas had not received the promotion Amanda had mentioned. In fact, he had been passed over twice and was now in danger of being downsized. Amanda's shopping habits had not adjusted to their financial reality, and they were carrying significant credit card debt. I felt no satisfaction in their troubles. Only sadness that my son had sacrificed our relationship for material gain that ultimately provided no lasting security or happiness. Thomas's attempts to contact me increased as the months passed, Calls to my old number went unanswered. Emails bounced back. He even visited Sunshine Valley, only to be told I no longer resided there, with no forwarding information available. His messages, forwarded to me by the facility at my request, grew increasingly desperate. At first, they were thinly veiled attempts to re-establish contact for his own purposes. "Mom, where are you? We need to discuss some important family matters." Then came the fake concern. "We are worried about you. Please let us know you are safe." Finally, as I suspect financial reality set in, came the transparent attempts at reconciliation. "I have been doing a lot of thinking about our relationship. I know I made mistakes. I want to make things right." I read each message carefully, searching for genuine remorse or understanding of how deeply his actions had hurt me. I found none. Only self-interest masked as concern. Only regret without true repentance. 6 months after winning the lottery, I received an unexpected package at Sunshine Valley, where I still collected mail under an arrangement with the administration. Inside was a small jewelry box containing my mother's pearl earrings, items of modest financial value but immense sentimental worth. Accompanying them was a note from Thomas. "Mom, I found these while going through some of your things. I know they were important to you. Please contact me. We're having our baby soon, and I want you to be part of your grandchild's life. I miss you." I held the pearls in my palm, memories flooding back of my mother, wearing them to church every Sunday. Thomas had kept these back, knowing their significance to me, only to use them now as bait to re-establish contact. I showed the note to Judy during our weekly lunch. "He is running out of money," she observed shrewdly. "And he has realized you might have more than he thought with that inheritance you mentioned. Classic manipulator tactics, using the coming grandchild as leverage." "I have always wanted grandchildren," I admitted. "It breaks my heart that I might never know this child." "That is his choice, not yours," Judy reminded me gently. "He is the one who severed the relationship by treating you as a burden rather than a beloved parent." I nodded, tucking the pearls into my purse. "I know. I just never imagined my life would turn out this way. Wealthy beyond my wildest dreams, yet estranged from my only child." "Life rarely follows the paths we envision," Judy replied. "The question is, what will you do with the path you now find yourself on?" It was a question I had been pondering for months. With financial security came freedom, but also responsibility. How would I use this unexpected blessing? What legacy did I want to leave? The answer began to take shape in the weeks that followed. I established the Frank Thompson Memorial Scholarship for nursing students at the community college where I had earned my degree. I joined the board of a local senior advocacy organization. I volunteered at a financial literacy program teaching elderly citizens how to protect themselves from scams and exploitation. And I began speaking out, sharing my story at senior centers and community groups. Not for sympathy or attention, but to warn others of the dangers of financial abuse, even from those closest to you. To encourage seniors to protect themselves legally and financially. To remind them of their inherent worth beyond their assets or usefulness to their families. Through it all, I maintained my weekly card games with my friends from Sunshine Valley, my lifeline during the darkest period of my life. They had seen me at my lowest, and now they rejoiced in my transformation and supported my newfound purpose. One Thursday, nearly a year after my lottery win, I returned home from our card game to find a car parked in my driveway. A car I recognized immediately as Thomas's. My heart hammered in my chest as I instructed my driver to continue past the house and call security. The gated community where I lived had strict protocols about unauthorized visitors, but as we passed, I caught a glimpse of Thomas sitting on my front step, head in his hands. He looked defeated, diminished somehow from the confident son who had abandoned me a year earlier. After a moment's hesitation, I asked my driver to turn around. "It is all right," I told him. "That is my son. I will speak with him." As we pulled into the driveway, Thomas looked up, his expression moving from desperation to shock as he took in the luxury car, my elegant clothing, my composed demeanor. This was not the abandoned mother he had expected to find. "Mom," he said, rising to his feet. "Is that really you? What is going on?" I dismissed my driver with thanks and faced my son. "Hello, Thomas. How did you find me?" He shifted uncomfortably. "One of the nurses at Sunshine Valley. I paid her to tell me where you had gone. She said you come back every week for some card game. I followed you today." "I see." I unlocked my front door and after a moment's consideration gestured for him to enter. "Come in. We might as well talk." Thomas stepped into my home, his eyes widening as he took in the spacious, beautifully furnished interior. "Mom, what is this place? How can you afford this? Was that inheritance really that substantial?" "No," I replied, calmly setting my purse on the entry table. "There was no inheritance from your father's cousin." "Then how?" "I won the lottery, Thomas. The week after you left me at Sunshine Valley. $37 million. He stared at me in disbelief, then sank onto the nearest chair. "The lottery? But you never played the lottery." "I started at Sunshine Valley, with friends, the kind of friends who stand by you when your family abandons you." His face flushed. "Mom, it was not like that. We were just trying to make sure you were safe and cared for. I had your best interests at heart." "Did you?" I asked, my voice steady. "Was it in my best interests to trick me into signing away my home and possessions, to leave me in a bare-bones care facility while you and Amanda enjoyed the proceeds from my house sale, to take my jewelry, my keepsakes, my memories?" Thomas had the grace to look ashamed. "Things have been difficult. Amanda lost her job. The baby came early with complications. The medical bills are overwhelming. I made mistakes, I know that, but I am still your son." "Yes, you are," I agreed. "Nothing can change that biological fact. But being family is about more than blood, Thomas. It is about trust, respect, care. All things you discarded when you decided your convenience was more important than my dignity and autonomy." "I am sorry," he whispered. "Truly sorry. When I could not find you, when I realized you were really gone, I started to understand what I had done." I studied him, searching for sincerity. There was regret there, certainly. But was it regret for his actions, or merely for the consequences he now faced? "I have a new grandchild?" I asked, changing the subject. Thomas nodded, pulling out his phone. "A girl, Lily. She is 4 months old now." He showed me a photo of a beautiful baby girl with dark hair and eyes that reminded me painfully of Frank, my granddaughter, whom I had never met. "She is lovely," I said softly. "She should know her grandmother," Thomas said, pressing his advantage. "Mom, I know I cannot undo what I did, but we can move forward, start fresh. Now that you are financially secure, you could help us get back on our feet. We could be a family again." And there it was. Not an apology, but a proposition. Not remorse, but opportunism. I took a deep breath. "Thomas, I have changed my will. You should know that. Apart from a small bequest and a letter explaining my decisions, you will not inherit my estate." His expression shifted, a flash of anger quickly controlled. "Is that what this is about? Punishing me?" "No," I replied honestly. It is about protecting myself and creating a meaningful legacy. My money will go to causes I believe in, to helping others avoid the pain I experienced. You would disinherit your own son, your granddaughter. I have established a trust for Lily's education, I told him. She will be provided for. But yes, I have removed you from my will. Not out of vengeance, but because I no longer trust you with what I have built. Thomas stood up, his face hardening. So that is it. After everything I did for you over the years, one mistake and you write me off completely. One mistake, I echoed incredulously. Thomas, you stripped me of my home, my possessions, my independence, my dignity. You abandoned me in a facility on my birthday and barely contacted me afterward. You took family heirlooms meant to be passed down through generations and sold them or gave them to your wife as trinkets. These were not accidents or momentary lapses in judgment. They were calculated decisions that revealed your true character and priorities. And your true priority is clearly money, he snapped. You would rather hold on to your millions than help your struggling family. I shook my head sadly. The fact that you see it that way only confirms I have made the right decision. This was never about money, Thomas. It was about respect, about treating me as a person with agency and feelings rather than an inconvenient burden or a resource to be exploited. Fine, he said, moving toward the door. Keep your money, but don't expect to be part of Lily's life. That door swings both ways. The threat cut deep, exactly as he had intended, but I refused to be manipulated again. That would be a shame for both Lily and me, I said quietly. But it would be your choice, just as it was your choice to bring me to Sunshine Valley. We all live with the consequences of our decisions, Thomas. I have learned to live with mine. Now you must learn to live with yours. After he left, I sat in my sunroom watching the sunset and reflecting on our encounter. The pain was still there, but different now. Less raw, more resolved. I had faced my son, spoken my truth, and stood my ground. There was power in that, and a certain peace. 1 year to the day after Thomas abandoned me at Sunshine Valley, I stood in the newly renovated recreation room of the facility, cutting a ribbon to officially open the Angela Anderson Resident Support Center. My lottery winnings had funded not just physical improvements to the facility, but also a permanent legal aid service, financial literacy classes, and counseling for residents and their families. Martha, now my closest friend and weekly dinner companion, stood beside me beaming with pride. Look at you changing lives and taking names. I laughed, squeezing her hand. Hardly, just trying to make something meaningful from what happened to me. And succeeding brilliantly, Judy added, approaching with her walker. The attorney you hired for the center already has 20 cases of suspected financial abuse being investigated. The thought gave me both satisfaction and sadness. So many elderly people being taken advantage of, often by the very children they had sacrificed everything to raise. My situation had been painful, but had ultimately led to an unexpected blessing. Many others were not so fortunate. After the ceremony, I returned to my home to find a package waiting on my doorstep. No return address, but I recognized Thomas's handwriting immediately. For a moment, I considered returning it unopened, but curiosity won out. Inside was a small velvet box containing my mother's wedding ring, another family piece I had thought lost forever. With it was a short note. This belongs with you. I am sorry. Really sorry. I slipped the ring onto my finger, surprised to find tears in my eyes. It was not a grand reconciliation, not a full account in accounting or making of amends. But it was perhaps a small step, a recognition, however minimal, of the wrong done and the hurt caused. I did not call Thomas immediately. One gesture, however meaningful, could not erase a year of pain and betrayal. But I did write him a brief thank you note, including my phone number. The door, while not fully open, was no longer completely closed. 2 weeks later, he called. Our conversation was awkward, stilted, nothing like the easy rapport we had once shared. But it was a beginning, a tentative reaching across the chasm that had formed between us. Amanda and I are separated, he admitted toward the end of the call. After everything that happened, I started to see things differently, to see her differently, and myself. I did not comment on their marriage troubles. That was his journey, his lesson to learn. Lily is starting to babble, he offered, trying to say her first words. They grow so quickly at that age, I replied, my heart aching for all the moments I had missed. Would you like to meet her sometime? He asked hesitantly. I closed my eyes, grateful he could not see the emotion on my face. I would like that very much. The meeting was arranged for the following Sunday at a neutral location, a park halfway between our homes. I arrived early, nervous as a schoolgirl, wondering if Thomas would actually show up, or if this was another manipulation, another disappointment in the making. But at precisely the agreed time, his car pulled into the parking lot. He emerged with a baby carrier looking more disheveled and less polished than I had ever seen him. Gone was the expensive watch, the designer clothes. This was a single father doing his best, a role I understood all too well. Mom, he greeted me cautiously. Thank you for coming. Thank you for bringing her, I replied, my eyes already fixed on the small bundle in the carrier. We sat at a picnic table, and Thomas carefully lifted Lily out, settling her on his lap. She was beautiful, with Frank's dark eyes and a curious expression as she studied this new person before her. Would you like to hold her? Thomas asked. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. As he placed Lily in my arms, a flood of memories washed over me. Holding Thomas as an infant, the endless nights walking him when he was colicky, the overwhelming love that had defined my existence from the moment he was born. Lily gazed up at me, then reached one tiny hand toward my face, her fingers grazing my cheek with infinite gentleness. She likes you, Thomas said softly. The feeling is mutual. I managed my voice thick with emotion. We spent an hour in the park, the conversation gradually becoming less strained as Lily provided a natural focus for our interaction. Thomas told me about his new apartment, his efforts to find better employment, his weekly therapy sessions. I shared stories of my volunteer work, my friendships, my plans for the foundation I was establishing. Neither of us mentioned money or inheritance or the past. Those conversations would come later if our fragile reconnection survived. For now, it was enough to sit in the sunshine, a grandmother holding her granddaughter for the first time, a son and mother taking the first tentative steps toward healing. As we prepared to leave, Thomas handed me a small envelope. I found this when I was packing to move out. It is yours. Inside was a Mother's Day card I had given him to sign when he was 7 years old. In childish handwriting, he had written, I love you more than the whole wide world, Mommy. You are the best mom ever, and I will love you forever and ever. I meant it then, he said quietly. And despite everything, despite my terrible mistakes, part of me still means it now. I nodded carefully, tucking the card away. I know, Thomas. I have never stopped loving you either. That is what made your actions so painful. Can we ever move past this? he asked the question hanging between us, heavy with history and hurt. I do not know, I answered honestly. Trust once broken is not easily repaired. But for Lily's sake, and for the love we once shared, I am willing to try. Not to forget, but perhaps eventually to forgive. It was not a fairy tale ending. There was no magical reconciliation, no instant healing of the deep wounds inflicted. Real life rarely offers such neat resolutions. But as I drove home that day, I felt a sense of peace I had not experienced in years. My journey had taken me from betrayal to resilience, from abandonment to self-discovery. I had lost a home, but found a purpose. I had been left alone, but created a community. I had been discarded, but had rebuilt myself into something stronger, wiser, more compassionate than before. The lottery win had given me financial freedom, yes, but the true wealth I had found was in the knowledge of my own worth, independent of my usefulness to others, in the friendships that had sustained me through my darkest hours, in the purpose I had discovered in helping others avoid the pain I had experienced. As I sit here now watching the sunset from my garden, I reflect on the strange, unexpected path my life has taken. I think of the frightened, devastated woman I was that day at Sunshine Valley, and I barely recognize her. In her place stands someone who has weathered the storm and emerged not unscathed, but unbroken. If you have stayed with me through this story, perhaps you too have experienced betrayal or abandonment by those you trusted most. Perhaps you too have felt your worth reduced to your usefulness, your possessions, what you could provide to others. If so, know that your value lies not in what you can give, but in who you are. Know that age does not diminish your right to dignity, respect, and autonomy. Know that it is never too late to begin again, to redefine yourself, to create meaning from even the most painful experiences. What was your most heartbreaking moment with family? Have you ever felt betrayed by someone you trusted completely? Share your stories in the comments, and let's build a community of support for each other. Do not forget to like and subscribe if this story resonated with you, and share with anyone who might need to hear that second chances and new beginnings can come in the most unexpected ways. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes the end of one chapter is simply the beginning of a more beautiful story.